This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Okay, it's 4:30. We're going to call the meeting to order for the Southampton Public Safety Building Committee. It's Monday, July 9th, January 9th. We have a small agenda to go through first, but first I'd like to open up the meeting. If there's any open time for the public, anybody from the public that wants to speak to the complex or the agenda, and no one here. I'm going to go out of sequence a little bit and welcome a new member. If you could introduce yourself, Mark.
I missed that.
New members have to pay attention.
Welcome and introduce yourself.
Welcome to you. And
Just signed you up for 3 subcommittees.
You know everybody around the table already? Or?
I think I met everybody.
Okay.
Hey Mark, how are you?
And just want to welcome you aboard and glad to have you here. And based upon your qualifications, I think it's going to be a big help to the committees. So.
Great, thank you.
And the next item is approval of the meetings. Ed sent out a copy of the draft meetings for any comments on the meetings as per sent out.
So these are the minutes of November 28th. I'd sent them once. There was a little correction that was inserted. Any other things to add or change?
I move to accept as written.
Second.
First and second.
So Christina and then
Yeah.
All in approval?
Chief.
Yeah.
Aye. Aye.
I
Aye.
abstain, I wasn't here.
Okay.
So Mark, just so you know, you can abstain not having been here as well. It's not a requirement though, so obviously if you need a number of people to, you don't have to have a quorum. I mean, if you're the only person that is required to approve the minutes in order to make a quorum, then you can do it even if you haven't been at the meeting.
Okay.
That was probably about
There's
10
enough
times
for a
longer than I
quorum,
needed
so I can
to
say.
say.
You abstained? Okay, so 2 abstentions.
Okay.
Great.
It's okay, Rita.
Parliamentary rules. That's fine.
Okay, don't ask me to do anything right away, okay?
Good. Thank you, everybody.
Next is, do we have any updates from the senior center?
Yeah, okay, so the next meeting is Thursday, so as you know, there is also a committee running somewhat simultaneously, but maybe a little bit further ahead than this committee, to build a new senior center. The advantage that they have is that there was a donation made by a resident in town, and so there's a pretty tight time limit for this to be done. It's actually May, but they're hoping to have it done by March. So they have a company called Abacus, Architects and Planners. And so the big thing that I just wanted this committee to at least talk about is there was a landowner, I think I sent the email out to you all, that Bruce Coombs is also throwing his land into the ring. You may not know that there were some test wells that were done on the property a while back because of a leak from the gas station there. I don't know the status of that. Do you do, Charlie?
The yellow folder that's right in front of you?
Yeah.
I pulled some current information for you
Oh, okay.
on that.
Okay. So anyway, there's 2 other properties that are in consideration for both committees. One is Marmot Keystone property on Clark, another one is Ryan Giller's property on Clark. And so what happened was we did not have a quorum, or there wasn't an official meeting of the senior center committee, so I think on Thursday they might be discussing it, but they took no action. I think there was some comment that was made is, I don't see how this property adds anything more than either the other ones on Clark. But the select board will address it, I think, on the 17th as to whether or not they would like to send out the same letter to the landowners. So, did you want to say anything about it, Charlie? In general, or because were you part of that at all?
I would be concerned for the town to look at pursuing that property.
Okay.
If you were to take a look at just the map, I outlined the property boundaries, but just look inside the property boundaries. Between the test well locations and the easement for drainage off the other properties, it makes that site extremely limited.
Yeah, I think the width of it is also more narrow, so people just want to take a look at it, but...
I just thought it'd be handier for you if I just printed that.
Yeah, that is...
And I didn't print all the reports, I just printed
Yeah.
the first couple of pages, so you could see this is still going on with DEP.
Yeah.
And
Well, I think right now, another update from the senior center is that they're moving right along. They have a PowerPoint. You know, they've created an online survey so that people that didn't attend the widely attended input session, could fill out an online survey about what they would want in a senior center. And so they're hiring an engineer. Abacus is hiring an engineer, and they're doing a site analysis. So they'll, I'm sure, discuss the fact that there were some test wells even on the Gallagher property that, according to Ryan, have been signed off on, and that these are the ones that are of more concern,
these
obviously.
are closer
Yeah.
to the actual gas station.
So at the last meeting, there was also a presentation, or at least Abacus interviewed with the landowners. Yeah.
I'm just going to state right now that there was not a last meeting.
Oh, okay, right.
Because of the fact that the Zoom information that was put out was incorrect, so there was no meeting of the Senior Center Feasibility Committee.
Okay, right.
However, Abacus was allowed to continue and do the interview
Of three
with
landowners.
the three landowners for that information. The committee did not deliberate or make any decisions.
Right. Thank you for clarifying that. Right, we didn't participate at all. It was an interview by Abacus of the three landowners, and I'm not sure that we learned anything new except for Labrie, who basically, because we have not had a site identified by Labrie's in terms of if you are willing to sell land to the town for a senior center, where would it be? I think they did specify a site for the public safety complex, but they have not said anything about the senior center. So they were pretty flexible, like we could do this, or we could do that, we could even, you know, do right on Route 10 kind of a thing. So I think, I'm just amazed that all three landowners have been nothing but completely flexible, like, what do you need, what do you want, what do you know, I think that basically that's, so they're going to be doing an analysis of the sites.
The three are Labrie, Gallagher, and
Marvin Keystone, and then the two sites for town-owned
Yeah.
are the current police station, the
Okay.
current town hall.
You mean the fire
Fire
department, not police station?
Yeah, but, yeah,
This site.
this site.
Okay, good. Just,
On the Gilher and properties, did they mention any prices? Are these donated or?
No,
subject for
nothing has
sale?
been said. They said, you know, we'll discuss that.
Yeah, Labrie had mentioned that he would get it to the town for free.
Public safety,
Public safety, yes.
Not
but it's
senior.
not- Right.
yeah. And that hasn't been 100% clarified either, right? Ed, I mean, but that's my sense, but it hasn't
That is
been.
what they have said, that
That can be-
they'd be willing to donate for a public safety facility. They have identified a little over, I think it's 3 acres on the property that they have suggested for that, and have basically said that, however, for a senior center, they'd be willing to talk to the town about acquisition of additional, shall we say, land for that project.
And they are on track also to have a joint meeting on February 9th
That was my.
at noon time.
who's with they?
With us.
Both committees.
Both committees,
Having a
okay.
joint meeting
All
on
right.
February 9th at noon time. And that's because they have 2 engineers, an architect that are both all currently working, and a real estate person, so they all had requested sort of like a lunch type meeting.
Not a Zoom meeting?
It is Zoom, it's always on Zoom, yeah. It would be a Zoom meeting. One of them, actually, the architect lives in
So we
Boston.
have to post that meeting, because it includes this
Yeah.
committee.
Yeah.
Has to be posted, okay.
Anything else, Ed?
I think that covers it.
Yeah, I think that now that it's already January, we're, you know, the deadline looms because of the way the will was written. So I think there's a hope that by this Thursday's meeting, there's going to be a lot of movement or a new timetable that makes it really clear that this feasibility study will be done in March. So what's going to probably happen is they're going to be removing sites, just like I imagine we will. We even talked about it last meeting, remember, about moving the town highway site. But I just think we're just doing due diligence because it was specified to prioritize town-owned land. So if we're going to rule out any town-owned land, particularly the current police station, we're going to have to be really, good about explaining why. We know the site's not big enough, frankly. So that's that. That's the update.
Well, nice. The next one is Ed. Any update on our
Can I just say one
RFQ?
other thing?
Yes.
You might know that there were 2 other people that were interested in being in the committee who had been on the committee before, and I'm not interested in having anybody not be able to, give feedback. So I did propose the idea of having an associate member for anybody that wants to give input, not necessarily a voting member. So that'll be discussed next time at the select board meeting also. Thanks.
No. Ed, any updates on our current RFQ?
They are due on Thursday, and I forget if it's noon or 1 o'clock, it's one of the two. Have not received anything as of yet. I will let you know that just in the process of the Senior Center Feasibility Committee, the principals of Abacus were willing to reach out. They do not do public safety feasibility projects, but they reached out to some other firms to see if they could get an idea for us of why maybe we did not receive any the first time around. They did say that they thought it might be the $75,000 that was allocated for that. That it seems to them, from the people they're talking to, that feasibility studies are costing more than that right now. I will tell you that it was after the deadline for questions, so I was not able to answer it. I did have one firm reach out to me with a number of questions, and it pretty much all revolved around what was included in that fee and what was outside that fee, basically, such as, soil evaluations or anything like that, or additional type engineering costs. So we'll see what comes up as of Thursday.
When is that due?
This Thursday, the 12th.
Another update is that we did secure $50,000 from the state towards the feasibility study for this project. So we, if I remember correctly, the $75,000 came from ARPA.
Correct.
So that is still on the table, so I just wanted people to know that if we do get a firm that we end up hiring, then we can return the ARPA money, because the money has already been designated, $50,000, and/or, so nothing has to happen right away, but that just gives us a little bit more money if it's needed.
Well, if it turns out that $75,000 is too low, can they be combined and
I don't see why not. They were both approved sources of funding. I don't
see why not either.
Yeah.
But the firms that might be interested don't know that. They're still within the 75,000.
Sure.
And just so you know,
See what occurs by Thursday.
I know the public safety is generally more, it involves more, but the senior center feasibility study was $60,000.
It's too late for an addenda, I assume.
Yeah.
We'll just see what happens and.
Okay.
So the deadline is the 12th. I just want to make sure I got this right. Deadline for the receipt
Correct.
of any, okay, sorry, thanks.
The meeting's on the 12th?
What's that?
The meeting is on the 12th?
No, the deadline for submissions of responses for the RFQ was on the 12th.
Okay.
All right. We had just reached the idea of another site visit to another public safety
Yes, just give
facility.
me a date.
Did you give me dates?
No, we
No.
had just talked about possibly setting one up, and
Yeah.
I think we had not set anything up as of yet.
Yep, he's flexible, and so just whatever would work out for the committee, I bet it could make work.
Can we talk about what would be a logical time to meet again, given the deadline, and then work around that?
That's a good idea.
2 weeks?
2 weeks?
Yeah, because if we get this the end of the week,
Yeah.
Pardon?
it'll give us a week to break it down, figure out individually, and then we'll meet and say, okay, we did good or we did bad.
Yeah.
And we have a limited time to do a turnaround on the RFQs when they come in.
Are we gonna be
think
pressured, are we gonna be pressured to get something back out if nothing comes in?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So should we maybe set something up temporarily for like Monday the 16th?
That is Martin Luther King Day. Does that affect
Oh.
people?
So we're talking about 2 weeks anyway, right?
2 weeks
I guess.
anyway.
Unless we
Unless we
change
do a
the
different
date.
day.
Yeah.
So what do you think of?
Can we do it next week other than Monday? I don't know what's available for people.
And is the room available?
Yeah, we'll have to double check.
Different times as well?
Is what?
The room available.
Do you remember the timetable, Ed, as far as the, so the RFQ is due on the 12th, and then I believe there's at least a couple of weeks before we allowed some time for interviews.
Yeah,
And scoring.
my assumption would be that it would take about 2 weeks for the committee to go through the RFQs and actually evaluate them. And then
Okay.
at that point, once they're evaluated, it's a question of, okay, are there, 1, 2, or 3 firms that the committee would like to interview?
Mhm.
So for our next meeting, the 16th is out. We want to wait to the following Monday or try to schedule something during the week?
I'm not available on the 23rd.
And I'm not available either. I'm having a procedure that day.
So I would say definitely earlier.
Okay.
How does Wednesday look?
I'm out of town, but if everybody else can make it, that's
The
fine.
18th?
Yeah.
I'm out of town too.
Is there a day that works better for
I have a Board of Assessors meeting on Tuesday here.
What time is it?
I have another meeting here on
Well,
Thursday.
Tuesday's select board meeting.
Correct.
Oh, yeah, but that's in addition to select board. I have a 10 o'clock meeting, and on Thursday I have a 10 o'clock meeting. If either of those days work, Tuesday or Thursday?
Tuesday the 17th.
Yeah.
Are you available then, Christina?
No, I have to leave that day.
You go on the 19th too?
No, I'll be here on the 19th.
Could always do a Zoom too, I mean, if it's really a matter of just evaluating what's come in and deciding the course of action.
Yeah.
It might be easier for people to just Zoom in.
So like earlier, like 4:30? Is that good for you?
I have a 4 o'clock meeting for work, but again, if you guys want to do it, that's
Well,
fine.
we need you.
All right, so then it's better to do it earlier or later.
I have a 6 o'clock open space meeting that day. Zoom,
On what day?
on the 19th.
The 19th.
How does Thursday look for you both, chiefs? Like during the day, is there a time that's better? It's probably less predictable, right?
Yeah, my Thursday's not too bad.
How about like a 2 o'clock?
No,
Yep, we can do that.
No?
no.
12 o'clock?
Mark, you work too.
I'll
Yeah, and
see what I
it's-
can do.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I can-
It would have to be that or afterwards, like a 6 o'clock Zoom. Or,
I would see if I can,
yeah.
if it's a Zoom, we get it easy.
Would it be better to do a 6?
I mean, I can, I've got some time I can
No, we don't want you to have to start with that.
take. Well, I need to get up to speed.
All I look at it.
So are we talking January?
We're just trying to figure out maybe a time on the 19th.
19th, 2 PM, does that work for both?
Either 2 or 6, what works better?
Christina can't do 2. Can you do 6?
By Zoom?
I can be here at 6. Or Zoom.
How about you, Charlie?
Oh, okay.
I believe I can do either one.
Okay. I just have a meeting at, actually a Zoom meeting at 4, so I could make either.
don't believe I'll be available during the day. I have in-service training
Okay.
for the day, but at that afternoon at 4, I would be able to.
I'll change the open space meeting. I think we should do 6 here.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
But that's okay. I'll alter that.
Okay.
Maybe later we can hold it.
So 6 PM on the 19th, is that what we're deciding?
Yep. Is that good for the majority? Okay.
Is this still a Zoom meeting, or are we gonna have a physical meeting?
I'd say put it up for Zoom, and if people want to meet, that way it's kind of, do an open computer.
It's fine with me.
You have to have a quorum in the room, and all votes are roll call when it's a
My
hybrid.
intention is to be here.
Okay, let's just want to be in here at 6 o'clock. And if people can't make it, then maybe let Mark know. If you have to do a Zoom, and then we can set up a Zoom link, and so long as we have a quorum in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My intention is to physically be here.
Okay.
So I lose the hearing in this ear. Then I'll just
6
sit
o'clock.
here.
I hope it gets better, though.
Me too.
Oh, jeez, that's
So
terrible.
you can post that.
They
then,
can't see inside because of
Lucy
all
can
the
tell you
flooding.
which room is here.
So I gotta wait until it heals.
Are you sure that's okay? As far as
Yes,
open
it
space?
is. It is.
Okay.
We'll figure something else out.
Okay, so then back to the scheduling, obviously it won't interfere, or do we want to do that afterwards at some point, or? We have to.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
obviously.
Yep. When would you like to, when works for a walkthrough? So for that, just pick a date that's convenient for all.
Yeah, we don't, just clear, we don't need a quorum to do that.
Correct.
No, that's just
So long
a
as you
field
don't-
trip.
John, is this Hadley?
Yeah.
Is this just the fire department one?
Yeah, we can set it up for, yeah, we can probably get it to PD as well. And then they have a couple stations we decide.
So they're separate? They're not in the same?
No, they're together.
I thought you said they have 2 stations.
They have 2
One-
stations.
Oh,
Right,
yeah.
so they have one-
One's North Hadley, though.
Yeah,
That's-
we'd be going to the main.
So the public safety.
Correct.
Right,
That would make the most sense.
correct.
Yeah.
But if there was time, we could tour the other one, folks are interested.
The reason I like North Hadley is the way it's built, like on a rock ledge. Isn't that the one? Am I remembering the right one? I just think it's architecturally interesting.
Yeah, all we need is the ledge to build it on. But we got
We
plenty
have
of
ledge, that's the point.
That's the
We have the
point.
ledge, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I found South Hadley, even though I'd been there before, I found it really informative.
Yeah.
So I'd be very interested in going, and Wednesday's about the only day I can't do, if I have enough notice.
Okay, we're talking next week or the weekend thereafter?
Probably afterwards.
Yeah, I don't think there's a rush to
I don't
do
think it's a
that.
rush really at
Yeah,
all.
I think it's more important to do the feasibility.
Absolutely. Yep.
And we can
and then-
even decide later, unless you want to put something on the calendar.
That doesn't matter to me. We can put it off till the next time we meet and then pick a time then. Might be closer and people can kind of plan around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's pretty flexible.
So we'll
Okay.
continue that
Yeah.
discussion
Continue,
on the next
yeah, to
meeting.
be determined.
Discuss the next meeting, okay. Discuss on 119. Okay. Zoning it,
So, is it your sense that it wouldn't be necessary or a good idea to necessarily send out a letter to Coombs on Clark? If it's a narrow lot and there's also a drainage, I mean, it's going to probably discussed by the select board, but I'm just going to get a sense of this committee if you don't think it has anything additional to offer than the other 2 properties on Clark. I'm not the chair, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only conceive is what the price would be. If it's a differential in price.
Right.
It's the same location as far as access,
Right.
accessibility to Route 10.
Right.
But it is a narrow site, has a
The
drainage
site's-
easement, but
The site's limited and has environmental concerns that have not been satisfied.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would there be any advantage to combining Gilaher and Coombs?
That's exactly what actually Abacus had said. I guess all options are on the table, I think was what was said.
the Gielaher property is wide enough to accommodate us. I don't know why we would need to take the Gielaher property and a portion of Coombs to accommodate our
Unless it
needs.
was to have both buildings.
Right.
Could it work for the senior center as well if we took both?
Look, think that's what they mean by both buildings. I
All
mean,
properties.
Yeah. So out of curiosity, the environmental issues, how much of an inheritance would that be? Is that the potential for bad inheritance and cost a lot of money?
You're asking me?
Yeah, in your personal opinion.
My personal opinion?
You're looking-
You're looking at a
Yeah,
21E site where fuel was dumped
yep,
and has flown off their property into these other properties. The whole reason for the monitoring wells is trying to establish what's out there. If they concur that there are problems, which given the amount of data you're seeing, there's got to be something that's driving us to keep going,
yep.
then yeah, whoever owns the property becomes legally responsible for their piece of property. Unless you want to start filing a lawsuit against the original polluter,
Yeah.
but then that engages the town into all that. I'm not an attorney, but I can just see this thing becoming a quagmire of just getting deeper and deeper.
Yeah,
Is there concerns of any of that going into dealers' property as well or no?
Well, that's the reason for the monitoring wells, they're trying to figure that out. The good news is the soils are tight there, so it isn't flowing much. The other thing is the source is no longer there. I'm not an engineer, I'm just a dirt farmer that grows
Does
dirt.
Gilliher's property indicate any,
I haven't seen anything
contamination?
on the records that I just gave you that indicate that they have a problem.
Yeah, but I think what Ryan made really clear was I wouldn't have bought this land if there was going to be a problem. So I think he's satisfied with them signing off on it, but not necessarily the same scenario for Coombs.
No. And I think, in all honesty, I think, and I know Bruce, we've gotten along good for years, I don't think he can sell this property because of this.
Yeah. Okay.
I have a concern about anything happening over there on Clark Street, just because the athletic fields are there, and when it's summertime, at least 6 months of the year, you're gonna have all kinds of traffic. Cars and coming in for sports.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be, and if we ever go forward with a bike path, that area is gonna end up being a parking lot for the bike path too. I mean, I'm not an expert, but it doesn't take much to figure out from a map that if they can get on the bike path on East Street, the only parking lots are the ones for the park.
I'm just concerned that, I live right near there.
Oh, you'll be moving. They'll move you up on the High Street.
We'll buy you a bike then.
Yeah, you'll like it.
But aren't these the kind of factors that would come out when they do the feasibility study? I mean, they're important. And this is where, you know, all this should be coming out and helping
No disrespect.
this committee plus the select board.
No
to make-
disrespect, but when you hire a consulting firm, they're not native to the town.
Oh, yeah, but they're going to ask questions, I hope.
Right, but if they don't ask the right question, that's the problem.
but I think it's a good point that we could bring it up once we get to that point. I think if we go to the original question, which is, do we want to write off this property? Sounds from what you're saying that it'd be worth it to not think about a property that has an environmental concern.
I wouldn't pursue it for a public safety complex.
So do we want to vote on that? Was that your thought?
I just wanted some sense from this committee. Obviously, it's up to select board whether they want.
That's why I printed that
Yeah,
for you,
yeah.
was so that you had something.
Yeah. I just feel like it would be good to at least have this committee discuss it so that I can share the information with the select board who would vote whether or not to send the letters out. And just a comment about anecdotal information. I've been trying really hard on the senior center side, and then this committee too, to just, you know, to be clear about using data, you know, objective data, so that we're looking at soil samples, we're looking at environmental data, because I do think that there's a lot of opinions that have to do with what should be in the senior center and where should the senior center be. And I think that, at least at this stage, if they, you know, be careful with public opinion a little bit. I think it's good at some point, but I think in the early stages, I would not want to take off a property based on someone's opinion about something. But if there's an EPA has test wells that said they're still doing checks, then that's a really good reason to consider not including that property.
you know, then in the future with, if they do have some contaminants there, even if DEP writes it off, a lot of times they'll go with what's called a beneficial use determination or a allowable use,
A bud?
and also an allowable use determination, which only allows you to dig down a certain distance and only in certain places, which can highly restrict the constructability on the site. They can still allow you to use it, but with a lot of restrictions. So if that potential is there.
It becomes an encapsulated brownfield.
Right, basically, and then you can still build there, but,
Yeah.
One of the restrictions might be you can build there, but that particular area is the parking lot.
right.
And I'll give you an excellent example. The East Hampton Public Safety Complex has a site on that property that is basically an area of a no-touch zone.
Right, so now
their
allowable
property in
use
East Hampton?
determination or.
I was the public safety officer when they built it. My job was to go every time they dug something up and determine what approach Fontaine Brothers were going to take in either removing it, encapsulating it, or moving the equipment over.
So, I think the other properties have a lot less potential for headache, but
So do you want to just kind of go around the room, see if how we're feeling, hesitant or not hesitant?
Or you can vote to support or to not support adding it as a site, or maybe you don't, you need more information, or, because remember last time, we did not take off the highway because we would have had to wait, we wanted to get the RFQ out, and if we had, the select board didn't have time to vote on it, so we just left it in, and then we could amend it from there. So I just wanted a sense of whether you think that it's worth, so either a vote or endorse or not. I mean, personally, I don't have enough information about it, but it doesn't sound like it would be something that would be.
I don't have enough information, but I also don't know that we need it. I mean, because we have these other potential sites. Do we need to look at the Coombs property?
Unless what
price
you
is
said about the price
Yeah, the
and,
only beneficial of that over the Gielher property would be what the selling price would be. That's the only benefit I can see. It's
you
a
don't
narrow
see it
site.
being closer to 10 even,
That's, I don't think the distance between the
doesn't matter.
Gielher property and the Bruce Coombs property is significant for access for
yeah.
public safety. but-
It would seem as though a conversation could be had with Coombs too, because we don't, I mean, price-wise, he could be looking to donate it. We
Yeah.
don't know. We don't know
Or if there was a
that.
combination of the two parcels, that might be an advantageous thing. But like you said, I don't know if
I
it's
guess
going to be
it's-
sellable.
Is it worth us pursuing, and we need to either drop it or pursue it, one of the two? Is there a motion to pursue it on the next meeting, or to approach Gielher and do some more research on it?
I mean, approach Coombs or
I mean,
you.
approach Bruce Coombs, not Gielher.
Yeah, I would say that we just take a vote to be hesitant towards it until we get to a point that we need to do, like we get the property next to it and then might look to expand.
Yeah.
That might change our opinion.
But the other thing is the senior center group is also, discussing it. I won't be here, I'm going to be away after tomorrow, but the senior center group it's on the agenda for Thursday. And they're at the point where they added, I don't know if I mentioned this, but they added the Harley Davidson site, and Abacus did look at it because they thought it's for sale.
That water.
It's $3 million. It was determined not to be a viable site for the senior center. So I think they would need to know even before us whether they want to add it to the list.
So do you want to just push it off and let them decide first, and they take it off the list for us?
I don't know, Ed, what do you think?
Personally, I think you should probably both stand in your both best interests. So I would say two independent opinions, one of each committee.
Okay.
The sole purpose I gave
Yeah,
that to you
right.
was for the council and for the senior
Okay.
center to have something to look at.
All right, I'll make a motion that the Public Safety Building Committee recommend not pursuing that particular property to the select board.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
First and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
And I think you're unanimous.
No, I think I'm going to abstain.
Who's not abstaining?
I'm only one person on the committee, they might decide to do it. And Chris Fowles may end up just sending out a letter saying, thanks for the offer, we will get back to you or something. So, I mean, I'm just saying that I don't know what the, I'll pass it along or about what this committee voted, but I'm not really sure if they would think differently.
Is there any idea why it took him so long to put this forward?
I don't know, he wrote initially, as you saw the email I forwarded to, he wrote to Darcy.
Yeah.
So Darcy has dealings with him because she works with Taylor.
Right.
And that was the reason why.
It's all fairly recently, right? It's
Yeah, it's all pretty
It's
recent.
been going on for a while.
Yeah, yeah.
That's all I'm wondering, what changed? I don't know, but what's new came up?
I don't know.
Because Mr. Coombs in the Heritage Survey knows what's
Right.
going on in town, you know, it's not like.
I would think so.
Heritage Survey is no longer owned by Bruce Coombs.
Right, right.
So he doesn't have anything to do with it right now, Charlie?
He owns the land.
Oh, he's not in the office
Rents the
anymore? He was there when I was
facility,
there.
rents the facility just, and that's it, but he doesn't run the business.
Oh, okay, well, I don't know then, okay.
You asked.
Yeah, I was unaware.
Yeah, well,
Well, I just want to remind everybody that the meetings, our meetings, as well as the senior center meetings, are all on Zoom. They're all available, and the minutes are similar to Cindy here. They're all up to date, so anybody can go and watch any video or listen if you want to get firsthand information. Just want to make sure that people realize that it's all very transparent.
Okay. That was a motion. Passed with one abstention.
Any other business that we need to discuss, would like to discuss?
Yeah, I'd like to raise a concern. I'm sorry Barbara Szymborski has simply not been attending. I called her 3 different times. She is here, she is appointed to this committee from finance. I can't speak for her. I don't believe I want to be responsible for calling her every single time. I know I don't want to. I think there's some accountability for being a part of the meeting. And I believe the current bylaws committee is reviewing bylaws that they're not, of course, passed at this point. These are drafted bylaws that give guidelines to boards and committees as to if somebody's unable to attend a number of meetings or, without being excused. So just talking in general, I think this is a very important committee and we need people present. I'm of the opinion, maybe somebody can clarify this, that finance doesn't have a full meeting. I'm looking at you,
They
Ed.
have 4 members.
So at this point,
I think what I said last time, first of all, when we contacted her last time, she didn't come to last
Yes.
meeting, but then isn't here now, but attendance has been bad. I think what we said is if you're willing to call her this time, if there's a
you mean the
continued...
other time.
Yeah, if there was a continued problem that I and/or Ed will go back to John Lumber, who's our representative to finance,
Okay.
and ask them to discuss. So there's Donna Whiteley, Vicki Morrow, John Lumbra, and Barbara Szymborski on the finance. So it's not a full committee, but it might be time to revert right back because Barbara is here as a finance representative, correct, Ed?
Right.
Yes,
Correct.
she is, yeah.
So I think what we need to do is maybe, unless somebody has another suggestion, I didn't want you to feel like you needed to go back to her, but I think that we need to go back to the finance committee, and I will bring that on the 17th to John Lumber and ask that, I don't know what we can do before then. What do you think? Anybody have any other suggestion?
I think it's owed to her to at least advise her of this discussion.
Yeah.
And let her make that decision before
Okay.
we go forward.
Okay.
It's owed to her. I know you've already reached out to her.
Yeah.
But I think if we let her know.
This is the decision,
This is
there's no,
what's
Yeah.
gonna vote on this, or there's gonna be a decision being made based on your
Yeah.
absence. Do you still want to be part of this committee? I think we owe that to her. And the committee member.
I'll call her.
I think so, Randy, at this point, yeah. I have her phone number.
Yeah, text that to me, yeah.
So Randy's going to call her and explain. what
Yeah,
Randy's
yeah.
talking.
Maybe she just needs a, reason to.
That's what I thought last time, but
She insisted on
whenever she's
going.
asked, she says, no, I'll attend.
Okay.
Well, is it not up to the select board to make that determination?
Well, right now, we don't have a policy. Like she said, the bylaw committee is looking at a policy for attendance. You can't just say you need to leave. So I think we're just trying
Whether it's the
to,
select board of this committee would have to go back to the finance committee and say, okay,
Yeah.
your appointee has not been showing up. Is there anyone else on the finance committee that
Yeah,
would
okay.
be willing to fill this, that would be able to show up to meetings?
Okay. So I'll call it first, and then we'll discuss it if we need to at the,
Okay. Can we do?
yeah. I just wanted to double check with you, Mark, to see if you have any questions about what's happened so far, or any.
I'm just still trying to absorb it. I would
Yeah.
like to get some information on like the parcels and
Yeah.
that type of stuff, so I know what everybody's, I'm a little bit familiar. I read the previous minutes before I came, and but there's still.
Are you familiar with the town? You've been in the town for a while? Do you know where some of these parcels are?
30 years, but for some people, I'm a newcomer.
Yeah, that's true. Same here.
Mark,
Well-
would it help you if I sent you a copy of the original report that was done
Yeah.
on all this? Can you get it electronically easily?
Yes, yes.
All right, then I'll send you that report, because that report actually encompasses a lot of these parcels at the very beginning. It'll give you a good history of how deep this has gotten.
Well, do you also, are you able to access Google Docs or not?
I believe so.
Okay, because I can also send you a link, because Sarah, the previous chair, before she moved out of town, she had been loading things up to a Google Drive. And certainly if that was shared, all the information about, the current information about parcels and the RFQ and all that is all up on the Google Drive. So why don't I go ahead and I'll send that link to you. But you know, the committee's been in place for a very long time. Charlie, I know, has been, and Dawn have been on the committee for a long time. And then about a year ago, the committee sort of got resurrected again. I mean, we're very committed to make this happen. Both departments are in very substandard buildings. So along with the senior center running at the same time because of the 2.5 million donation, this committee started up again. And we looked up and down Route 10, and a mile in each direction, a quarter mile, and identified any possible land. And we wrote to landowners, and then we looked at public lands, because we want to make sure that, I think the charge was to prioritize public lands. On the select board, we end up getting people that really don't want us to take private lands off the tax rolls. So we have to really do due diligence to make sure that we're making good decisions around any private lands. So, and then we put together an RFQ, and we didn't get any responses. So that's what Ed was talking about before, is what was the reason? And we thought it was because the timetable was too short, because we were really hoping to get results back before our town meeting. And we also thought that maybe the criteria was too strict. So we loosened up a little bit in terms of how long they had to be in business, not in business, but the engineers, you know, like maybe instead of, 8 public safety complexes, maybe more like 5. So we revised all that criteria, and we sent it back out, and that's what's due back on the 12th. So now we're kind of looking at hopefully getting some firms interested. But we shall not be dismayed. Good. We will have a public safety complex in Southampton.
In our lifetimes.
Yes.
I have a question regarding public meetings. Could one of our members sit down with Mark individually and just go over?
Absolutely.
So I'll be glad to sit down with you and just go over, sometime face-to-face, 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Could
Yeah.
help you out rather than trying to dig through
Yeah, it's a.
Google Docs and everything is that big, and we really are a little bit narrower.
We just can't have a quorum.
And deliberate,
That's not,
yeah.
and deliberate, that's the
Right,
difference.
just about, can 2 members
Oh,
talk
yeah.
together
Yeah.
regarding some of the specifics?
Good suggestion.
Yeah, that would be very helpful, and I'm caught up. Because what Charlie was referring to is there was a public safety complex, an RFQ that went out. There was a study done by a company in 2014, 15? Yeah, and the site that was selected was the current fire station. And there was an awful lot of ledge there. And so anyway, the price tag was too high, and the townspeople did not vote in favor of it. So it, unfortunately, it was a setback, and we're sort of going back to the drawing table, so to speak.
So after the decision will be finally made, it still goes for public review? Is that?
Well, I mean, unless somebody, donates, gives us $20 million. I mean, I think the mainly is the funding. So we're very aware of that. In fact, this Thursday, the Council on Aging, totally apart from the building committee, got $50,000 worth of ARPA funds. John Bielis, there was a little ceremony. It was just separate state money. And so there was a discussion on what to do with it, and the three things that rose to the top was, one is hiring a fundraiser, knowing that we're gonna have a major capital campaign, and all of us are so busy and on a lot of committees that it would be very difficult to any one person do that. Another outreach worker, and also cultural trips, to pay for taking people to cultural trips. So anyway, this Thursday there's somebody who's a fundraiser that's gonna come and just talk about what they do and how they do it, and what they charge and what they guarantee and what the deliverables are and stuff like that. So anyway, it'd be very good for us to get our committees together sooner rather than later. So I'm glad that we already have a date, because I think that as far as public support, we have to be together on this.
I do.
And a lot of the lands that we're looking at are parcels of the exact same ones. So we have to really be working.
That's why I want to give them the original report.
Right.
Because a lot of this stuff is mirroring itself.
Yeah, right.
And that's on the,
Yeah, I'm going to send you the link to the...
I'll send you that.
What, you're going to send the previous 2014
Yeah, you're
data?
gonna
I'll
send
send you
them
the
the
Google
Google.
link, and then Mark can meet up with you and
right.
kind of synthesize some of it. Yeah. So really, the townspeople, I think, would ultimately end up voting on it, even if we got this massive donation. I still think there would need to be a vote on something. But it's mostly funding, it would be mostly funding.
To accept the donation or not.
To accept
That's what
it.
we'd have to vote on.
I always enjoyed those votes. We're gonna give you $5,000, you want it? And you sit there at town meeting watching everybody going, they can't make their mind up.
I'm afraid our town's had a history of letting some really good opportunities go by, and
Oh, yeah.
unfortunately, it all comes down to who attends town meeting, and
Yeah.
a bare quorum versus a large turnout. So
When we had the
it's an issue for us.
councils, the senior center building committee, 70 people came, and they did a little exercise where they asked various questions. It's pretty obvious that people feel like we need a new senior center, we need a public safety complex. It really is about where it is and how much it is. Cost was like the longest list of stickies. So I think people really want this to happen as much as possible with very little impact on taxes.
We need the $20 million donor.
Yeah,
That'll
yeah,
work.
if you know anybody.
When I win the Powerball tonight, I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm winning.
Who is it tonight? Is it too late to go buy a ticket?
No, you can still do it. Anyway, it's good to have you.
If there's no other questions, we can actually adjourn a little bit early.
I move to adjourn.
Second,
Second. Oh, you
Oh.
second? I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll see you guys next Thursday.